My name is Michael Easterbrook. I am the president of the Western Canada Whaling Alumni Association. At the age of 16, I had the opportunity to work in a whaling station at the top of Vancouver Island. This was in Cole Harbour, which is near Port Hardy. This whaling station was an old RCAF float plane station. We used the slip for whales and the hangars to store meat and oil. We had 6 whaling boats. The harpoons you can see full of dynamite and shrapnel. We'll discuss this later. These are the oil tanks from the blubber. Our company was called Western Canada Whaling, partly owned by the Japanese. These are harpoons waiting to be loaded, and these are pictures taken on the boats through the Japanese friends I made there. Look in the distance for a blow. Every whale has a different signature blow, and that helps the captain determine what type of whale and how big a whale, as there were limits as to the size of the whale that could be taken. These next few scenes are showing the actual shooting of the whale with the harpoon. There's blow in the distance if you look carefully, but you can see how close you have to be, as these harpoon guns are not that accurate. It is apparent that the whales do not die immediately, and in some occasions a second harpoon must be shot before the whale dies. This is a sperm whale, as you can see, with a square head and the teeth. This is a fetus. Sometimes the whaling captains cannot tell if the mother is pregnant or not, and I'm just showing you the fetus to show you the different parts of the whale. The baleen, which is used to sieve out the crustaceans that the baleen whales use, hangs from the roof of the mouth. The eyes are very large but are very similar to human eyes. The baleen whales, the blue, the fin, the minke, the humpback, have 2 blowholes, whereas the sperm whale only has 1, and that is useful for the captains as they hunt these whales. The tongue in a large whale may be 2 feet thick and 20 feet around. The orca whale often hunts in packs and kills these whales by ripping out their tongues so the whales bleed to death. I was fascinated as a pre-medical student about the articulation and the smoothness of the joint. This is a fin whale, called fin whale because of the relatively large size of the dorsal fin. We had a full-time blacksmith, as these harpoons were severely bent and had to be replaced and straightened before they could be used again. I met some wonderful characters at this whaling station. There were Norwegians, Swedes, Australians, Germans, East Germans. It was a communist union, the United Allied Workers and Fishermen's Union. So when we were asked to do anything by the boss, we would go to the union steward and ask him if it was okay. We worked 12 hours a day, 7 days a week. This is the hangar on the right where the oil was processed and where rotten meat was processed. These are the whales coming in. They were shot out to 200 miles from the whaling station, which meant if they were fresh within 24 hours, they went for dog, cat, and mink food. If not, the rotten meat was sent up to my corner, and we cut the rotten meat into small sections for fertilizer. Here the slip is being prepared. A line is put down so that this adolescent, probably finback whale, can start the process. The whale is pulled up the ramp with steam winches. All the winches were steam. You can see the line is being hooked onto the tail. This whale is lying on his or her right side with the baleen hanging down from the mouth and the tissue under the jawbone facing to the right. If you look at the top of the screen, you'll see one of the flansers reach down, and as the whale goes by, he will put in the first line of dissection, first of all down the side and then one down the top of the whale.
Stop.
You can see the tissue under the jawbone is being removed now, so the jawbone can be released. This is our boss measuring the whale. Every whale is measured and reported to the International Whaling Commission. The blubber now is being removed. The blubber is thicker in a sperm whale and less thick in the baleen whales. The white covering is all fascia, a fibrous tissue which must be removed from the meat. The jawbones now are being isolated. Some of these jawbones are 20 feet high. The rest of the stomach blubber is removed by these winches. The jawbones are now disarticulated. The bones are all cut up into small pieces and made into bone meal because of their high concentration of calcium. This is the baleen that is removed from the roof of the mouth. It's the only part of the whale we didn't use. This is the first loin coming off near the vertebra in your backbone. Huge piece of meat, a lot of blood clots, as you can see. These are the jawbones finally coming off. You can see how smooth this professional flanser is. Smooth movements. This is the baleen. It will be removed and placed aside temporarily. This is the loin again. The whale will then be flipped over so the loin on the other side of the backbone can also be removed. You can see the very smooth movement of this professional flanser. This is the other loin coming off. The white fascia must be removed because the dog, cat, and mink will not eat that fascia. They only want the meat. Again, smooth movements. These pictures were taken on company time where the fascia is being removed and will be boiled up for oil. We had a full-time biologist who measured every whale. This is a blue whale, the largest mammal on Earth, up to 85 feet in length. Commercially very valuable because of its amount of oil and fresh meat. This is the blubber being removed by the steam winches again to be boiled up for oil, vegetable oil, margarine. This comes the blubber off next. Again, very valuable for the amount of oil. Constantly we're washing down to prevent maggots, which we will see later. Always cleaning, hosing as flies lay eggs very readily. The whale is now, with both loins removed, is being taken up to the top deck. The hooker makes a signal to the winchman at the back as to how quickly the whale should be pulled up. And once the whale is on top deck, the head is then disarticulated by these very experienced and professional flansers. This head will then be sawn up and boiled up for bone meal. This looks easy, but these are very experienced men. Again, disarticulating the ribs from the vertebra or backbone. The hooker is pulling the bone vertebra one way, and the winch is opening the ribs here to facilitate this dissection. Very smooth, appearing not to be working at all. You can see these ribs. These are 12 feet across, these blue whale ribs. The only part of the whale that isn't used is the lung and the intestines. These will be taken out and boiled up and discarded. At this point, a line is thrown around the trachea and the upper intestines, esophagus, and the guts are then pulled out and placed in a tank. These again are the blue whale ribs, which will be sawed and used for bone meal, as are all the other bones. Okay. This is a continuation showing the guts coming out, revealing two large loins on the inside of the vertebra, which you can see in the upper left corner. These will also be removed, and if fresh, will be sent down to the other hanger. If not, will come up to my corner, where we will cut them into pieces, grind them up for fertilizer. This is the corner that I worked in. All the rotten meat came up here, hoisted, and then cut down with a large flancing knife. This is Oscar, a 65-year-old Swede who was still working at this job. A very tough job, full of horseflies, deer flies, blood, but very worthwhile for a 16-year-old. These again are the ribs, full of blood clots, waiting to be sawn up for bone meal. This is what happens when whales are brought in over 24 hours, as they start to rot with gas blowing out the mouth through distended intestine. The boss is shaking his head. How are we going to do all these whales in one afternoon? He consults with the foreman, the union steward, and everyone's quite shaking their head. Here the bones, the vertebrae, are being cut up by a saw. It is a slow, laborious process, and explains why it takes so long. Now, this is a picture of myself trying to dissect some of the liver, and you can see a gross amateur, as is my friend. Hacking movements, not smooth, not professional, and unlikely to survive as a flanser. In this situation, I'm trying to put the blubber down. Here I'm cutting out a piece of lung instead of liver, destroying a section of oil for the company. Again, non-professional hacking, a gross amateur who would not last long in this position as a flanser. I will clearly be removed from this position very shortly. Again, trying to dissect. Very hard work. Now these are maggots. And what are maggots? Maggots are just flies' eggs, and that's why we were continually washing down everything we could. However, the baleen, which was not usable, was thrown in a corner, as you see here, when we were very busy trying to dissect these whales at the end of the day. And of course, the flies then had their opportunity to lay millions of eggs. The white coming off is sulfur from rotting flesh, and here you can see millions of maggots. The last year I was there, the Japanese company Taiyo Gyoyo bought into it, and I had the opportunity of working with some wonderful Japanese professional whalers. They are dissecting off, as you can see, this white fascia from this dark meat, which is a sperm whale, and removing all the fascia to leave only meat for the dogs, cats, and mink. This was sold for 7 cents a pound and sent to the US. Here are the fascias coming off, again by professional flansers who are craftsmen, in my opinion. The meat is then cut into 50-pound sections, put in brine overnight, and chopped and frozen and packaged in 100-pound bags to be placed on a boat heading to Seattle for commercial distribution there. The next clip is of a bottlenose whale, according to our biologist. I'm not sure why this whale was shot. It's a very small, unusual whale, a very little commercial value. It certainly was interesting to everyone at the whaling station, as we had never seen this type of whale before. This is a sperm whale, the only whale with teeth. This is myself again trying to look professional, trying to dissect a tooth out of the jaw unsuccessfully. Again, I'm trying to hook the blubber into a hole unsuccessfully. This is when I was a hooker signaling the winchman to pull up the whale. Pretended to smoke for a week, but never could and never did. Telling the winchman to stop. Paragraph again, trying to put a piece of blubber into the top of the vat unsuccessfully. It should go in one smooth moment. Now, as I was leaving, there was a tradition to throw the person leaving into the head of a sperm whale, which is a huge sack of hundreds of gallons of spermaceti. They then hosed me down and it turned into wax, and I finally, after 4 years, had a delightful odor. This was a wonderful experience for me. This initiated my interest and fascination in whales, which has persisted all my life.